We are now 1 week into the set 7 meta, and we know that Sapphire is dominating, but have any other decks been able to break through the blue wave? Well, let's find out. Big shout out to Card Market, who sponsored today's hotel room video meta report. The first tournament we're going to look at was a 68-player tournament called the Hunter Burton Memorial Open. It's a yearly event that happens, and it's all to do with suicide prevention in gaming. So find out more about this tournament in the description if you'd like to go and donate and support their cause. Emerald Steel did really well in this event, and it makes sense that discard has a place in this metagame. Whenever you've got one deck which is really dominating the space, particularly lower blue decks, discard can really disrupt their flow, make them play suboptimally. And Diablo is also quite well suited. Of course, Steel will have the Sapphire Steel will have the potential to adapt to that potentially and start taking in things like fire the cannons. At the moment, Diablo's not really on people's radars, so I think it was a really good meta call for this week. So, of course, you've got Hidden Coves for that little bit of protection. The new card in this one is Pete, Space Pirate. While this character is exerted, opposing characters can't sing to exert songs, and your pirate characters gain resist 1, and that includes Pete himself. So I think a really nice line for this one, shifting Diablo on turn 3, playing Pete on turn 3, and then shifting Pete on turn 4. Because then if your opponent is playing Sapphire Steel and they're trying to remove Diablo with some Storm Rage or Strength, they're actually going to have to hardcast instead of be able to sing it. And that, I think Discard's got a pretty nice spot in the meta. And like I say, Discard did pretty well. This one is more spicy. In fact, this isn't even Discard. This is Emerald Steel. This isn't Discard at all. This is a location-heavy Emerald Steel deck. And I have to say, sound of it. So Captain Hook's in this one as well as a 1 cost, as well as the Pete Pirate Scoundrel, which is of course even better shift target, the Pete base Pirate. And Pete Pirate Scoundrel is interesting in this Sapphire meta. Whenever you play an action that isn't a song, you may banish chosen item. There's also a Emerald Steel Mr. Smee card which costs 3, uninkable, and it's whenever you play an action that isn't a song, ready one of your pirates. That card's not in here. And I have to say I'm not too surprised. I think that card is a little bit janky. It's uninkable, and there aren't an abundance of action cards which draw you cards which aren't. I think the main one which. But in this deck, actions which aren't songs is literally 0, but it is a good shift target for the Pete Space Pirate. It does beg the question, would Morph not be a better idea? Because you can shift Diablo onto Morph as well as Pete. Not really sure about the Pete Pirate Scoundrel, the 1-2 that's an occasional shift target when Morph. Like the idea of it. Obviously, Pete can come down at a different point in the curve. 1 copy of Doc, 4 Smee, 4 Diablo, 4 John Silver, who is a pirate, who is a captain. For each location you have in play, character gains resist 1 and plus lore. There's also this Daisy Duck Pirate Captain at 6. Whenever one of your pirate character quests while at a location, draw a card. Got the Storm Rage on and the Strength, but no room for Ursula, Deceiver of All. Got 3 copies of Zeus, 2 copies of I Find Him, I Flatten Him, then the Deville Manor, the Hidden Cove times 4, the Nottingham, and only 3 Dwarf's Mines. I feel like it would make a lot more sense. In fact, I can tell you for sure it does make more sense to play 4 copies of the 7 Dwarf's Mine and 2 Nottinghams. The Nottingham doesn't have an ability, but it costs 1 less to move there, so there's a little bit of extra synergy there with the Daisy Duck, because pirate character to Nottingham and quest there easily. I think we could probably. Seems like a better bet. It's a very fascinating one, to be fair. I think Emerald Steel, I think Diablo in general. We've seen some Emerald Amethyst Diablo decks on Twitter, which LD posted. I'm going to test that one out on the stream. Look out for that. Diablo could be good this meta. This one is a discard deck, and it's got Has Set My Heart, which is banish chosen item. Not sure about that when Benji exists. Obviously, Ursula Deceiver of All can sing it, but personally, I would still rather play Benji. There's 3 of the new Petes. There's also 1 copy of I Find Him, I Flatten Him. They go for the Ana as like the extra discard tool with also a little bit of extra flexibility. Only 3 Prince John. The thing with Emerald Steel decks, it's very, very difficult. Even though this Pete is a nice addition, you're also trying to like add in things which remove items. Another top 8 deck is Ruby, and Sapphire. This one's got the 4 copies of Sapphire Coil. Playing Lucky Dime as well. Pirates Lives in there. Up next, into the top 4, we've got a Sapphire Steel aggro deck. This is like a budget Sapphire Steel deck, which is a deck I was also thinking about bringing you. And it's got no Tamatoa. The problem is, I was looking at playing some budget Sapphire Steel and sharing with you guys. But realistically, if you're playing Sapphire Steel, you have to play the legendary Tamatoa, or your deck is just not going to be as good. It is honestly way too good in my opinion, that card. So it's very difficult to suggest to you guys a budget Sapphire Steel deck, because this deck we're looking at right now would be better if you had 4 copies of Tamatoa. Doesn't mean you can't play Sapphire Steel, because obviously Bell, Singing Storm and Strength is very, very good. But a budget version of the deck for me would look something very similar to this. And the very fascinating card they got in here is Glean, which is banish chosen item and it player gains 2. It's going to be mainly self-use on Glean. But I think Glean could be very good this meta game with the Fortispheres to Porpsicles, with the Tamatoa in particular though, right? To just put those items in discard. No room for the 1-cost Mulan in this deck. You like the 1-cost Mulan. Obviously Mickey Mouse has a little bit more ability, a little bit more stickiness. But that's a cool deck nonetheless. So it's a shame that I think with these budget decks, realistically, Tamatoa doesn't. What about bringing the same thing into the top 4? We have got another Emerald Steel one. This one is a discard. It's got Lucifer and very, very interestingly playing Heffalumps and Woozles, which is a card I like. 1 smash, only 1 hypnotize. This one is low on discard, to be honest with you. This is very, very low on discard. It has the sudden chills. It has 1 Lucifer, only 1 hypnotize. 4 Brunos. I think the thing with discard, in my opinion, you're going to play discard, you've got to play discard. Can't. He's like trying to half and half it a bit too much, in my opinion. Obviously, it did very well. But I think there's definitely some merit to play like no discard at all. In my opinion, though, if you're playing discard, it's worth playing it. Into the top 2, we've got Aaron Rubin on Sapphire Steel. This one is using items and the Queen. So the Queen is 1 Aegis Lorcana challenge, by the way. The Ruby Sapphire deck way back when. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You have to exert her to do it. You may reveal an item card and put it into your hand. If that item costs 3 or less, you may play it for free. It enters. If you hit Lucky Dime in there, you can just add Dime to your hand. If you hit any of your other items, you can put them on the play it for free. Pretty strong. In this deck, there's no way to ready the Queen to like utilize her multiple times per turn. If you were to pair the Queen Ruby with LeFou and Fanda Flame, that's something you could do, or Amber with Sven. I don't think that's a possibility with Steel though. But there's 3 copies of Scrooge. Only 2 Let the Storm Rage on, which I don't love, I think, in my opinion. 4 of these. I've gone for Oswald as well. It's going to be interesting to see how long people continue to play Oswald. Definitely Oswald versions of the deck are good. But I think the general consensus amongst the pro players is probably not the best. Steel Amethyst won this tournament though with 2 copies of Maleficent, which you already know makes me happy. There's 4 docks and 4 genies in this one. I think is actually a really nice approach with the Cobra. I like the look of this quite a bit. Genie's in a good spot. You've got 4 copies of Strength in there as well. Ability to maybe fight up against Sapphire Steel decks a little bit more in the mid game. You've got 3 Bengers. No copies of the Amethyst Chromicon. No copies of Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom. This one is still very quick, but not quite as quick. I like this list quite a bit. I think fair play. That's a solid list. Very, very solid. You guys want Amethyst Steel deck, which is not quite as quick as mine with the Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom story style. This gets my stamp of approval. This looks clean. Honestly, I like that one. I'm hard to impress when it comes to Amethyst Steel. This one was a big online webcam tournament by the Playing Ducks, who are friends of the channel. It was 128 players. It was a German tournament. Guys, I want to play on one of these. Sign me up. And we're going to look at the top 8. This is Amber Steel, or Cindy's, as Daisy in there, Robin Hood Shift, a couple of Piglets, and 3 Ursula, but no sign of the new Troubadour. Troubadour is good if you've got Miss Bianca in. Ally lets you play Miss Bianca. Or she's a 6-cost card, so she can whole new world. 3 copies of the new Aurora in there as well. This is when you remove 1 or more damage from a character rated as character, and she can't turn. There's also a Bagheera in there as well, which is all right. I also need to be a little bit quick because I might get kicked out of my hotel room. This one is playing Miss Bianca. This one's by Maya in the top 8. So the Troubadour is an ally. You got Smee who's an ally, as well as Daisy and Lawrence. You play any of those and they're on the board. Play Miss Bianca on turn 4. I know we saw Zach Bivens doing that. They've also got 2 copies of Prince Naveen, who of course can also sing The Whole New World. 1 Big Cindy in. Only 3 Let the Storm Rage on. That's one of my pet peeves now. When I see 3 magic brooms, because to be fair, with the deck I just gave my stamp of approval to, 3 magic brooms a little bit. One thing. A new pet peeve I have is if I see people. That one's good still. Into the top 8 as well, we've got Ruby Amethyst coming out in the top 8 in a 128 player tournament, which is very impressive. This one's playing what? Copies of Queen of Hearts losing her, and this character has damage. There's no fight. There's no like ambitions on that. That's a bit weird. But no Flynn Rider, Kuzco. Another pet peeve I have is when I see people playing Kuzco and not the 4 brooms. Excuse me. But this is pretty cool to see Ruby Amethyst do well. There's nothing too spectacular to this one. No Flynn Rider is obviously worth noting. No matter risk. 2 Queen's Castles, 2 libraries. I could definitely imagine like heavy investment into the locations could be the best way. Ruby Amethyst finds a way back in. Top 4, we've got a Sapphire Steel with Tamatoas in there. A couple of Zeus. This is quite similar to the list that Artabax played. I was with Artabax this weekend speaking to him about his deck. Fair play. Cogsworth is good in the mirrors. This to me like looks like it's going to be too slow, but Artabax was able to do it up against Ed's Ruby Sapphire in the tournament. So yeah, it's getting some really good results. I just think no Alice still. I'm a bit surprised by it, but listen, it's working. Awesome stuff. We've also got another Sapphire Steel deck. This one appeals to me a little bit more, to be honest. Alice in there. Playing Doc, 4 of them is a lot. They're gone for Simba over Calhoun. I think Calhoun is the better card. But it does look like a nice list nonetheless. There's 3 Scrooge McDuck Manors. There's a couple of Echoes. Very similar to the Artabax build as well. No Zeus in this one. And Zeus definitely was very important for Artabax in his tournament games. You can deal with Half Shark, for example. You can remove your opponent's Tamatoas. And that's also what's really nice about the Cogsworth, is it gives your own Tamatoa protection in the mirrors from your copies of. Oh my god, more Sapphire Steel. I bet you didn't see that coming. This one's also on Alice. This one is on 3 Zeus. Or Scrooge. No Docs, 3 Alice. Say, if I was to play Sapphire Steel, my list would look like this quite a bit. Captain Hook is making a bit of a comeback. He's actually giving Smee the extra bit of protection. I think quite relevant matchups because your opponent can't. Obviously, then you get the Smee Cogsworth down the line. I think that's the main reason that Hook is there. But Hook is definitely not a great card. That 1 cost mark is a bit of a weakness. Mulan is definitely an option. You got Mickey 1 drop. Captain Hook was like the best 1 cost character in set 1 in my opinion. So they're not the worst, but at this stage in the game, definitely the area of weakness. But Bennett won it. And Bennett is very well known for playing Amber Emerald. And he's done it again with literally no new cards. Fair play. Discard, man. I know that people are playing a lot of Sapphire decks that are a bit greedy. Always do a job with this. Got Diablo in there. You can Bare Necessities with Diablo as well. That is really strong in this meta game. Bare Necessities is great. Or Ursula Deceivers as well. Like, you're discarding songs for days. And of course, You Have Forgotten Me is one of the most powerful discard tools in the game. Get a very early hand discard through. I actually saw some players from Austria this weekend as well. Event in England playing Amber Emerald with Tramp dual ink color. I think that is worth exploring because it's a 7 cost card. Play it very early on. Early access to the sea aerial. How many songs is it? 5, 9, 13, 17, 20 songs. 80% hit rate on aerial. Not outstanding, but definitely. Go on, Bennett. Fair play. That's one of the great success stories. sure. So this tournament was pretty shiny. 32 players. We're only going to look at the winning deck from this one, and it's Ruby Sapphire with the new in there. Two Sapphire coils are in there as well. I'm actually going to get kicked out my room. Up next in this tournament, the Archazia's Island Meta Discovery. Sapphire Steel that won it was 46 players, and it's got Bell. Rouge is in there. Looks pretty similar to the list that Moyen's playing online. Tournament. 2 Lucky Dimes are in there. Next. Oh, this I think this one was a top 4 split, but it says they're all for. So Charles, Bell, Diggity. So it's got the Dock, it's got the 7 Dorse Mines. I definitely think that's an interesting approach as well. I have to say I like the mines quite a bit. Flavisham. This is like again another budget-friendly version of Sapphire Steel. But realistically, you add 4 copies of Tamatoa into this deck, it's gonna get that's just the reality. Very expensive card for a. Also in the top 4 split, we've got Ruby Sapphire Coil Control. This one is very, very interesting because it's playing a few unorthodox items. Well, it's playing one unconventional tool. It's also playing Maurice's Workshop. Unconventional tool is pretty damn strong. When this item is banished, pay 2 ink less for the next item you play. Pretty damn strong, potentially, but I think usually if you're seeing someone play this card, they're probably also playing the Sapphire Ruby Bell at the shifter. So interesting to see it in this one. Obviously, you can banish it with Bell. Fishbone down very early. That will give you a turn 2 Fishbone in theory, but that's, yeah, and Fishbone's in there in Maurice's Workshop. So imagine you play unconventional 2 on 1, like you banish it to play Bell. Okay, but it has to be this turn. You would have to delay your Bell a turn. It's probably not a big deal. On turn 2, you banish your unconventional tool to play Bell, and you get a Fishbone or Maurice's Workshop. That is honestly spicy. There's no Tipo, but there is Sail. Very, very interesting. Obviously, as soon as you're playing Fishbone, you're not as reliant on Ramp. I like that list. That's pretty cool. And this one, the other top 4 split deck is Sapphire Coil, Sapphire. That man, 22 Tamatoa. Yep. All right, on to the next ones. This top 4, we're gonna look at a few of them. It was a 25-player tournament. First place was Seaman with Bell, Mechanical Extraordinaire or Mechanic Extraordinaire. This one's also got the unconventional tool. It's got a lot of the other items. Merlin's Carpet Bag, 5 cost, uninkable. Exert it, pay 1 ink, return an item card from your discard to your hand. I don't know about that one. That's very expensive. I've heard people talk to me about this card in the past. You can get rid of it with Fishbone. That is so expensive. Probably just rather play a second die. But it's interesting nonetheless. And this Bell Mechanic, he can be so good. Shift her in very cheaply. And then whenever there's character quests, you may put up to 3 item cards. Bottom of in 1 item card. I honestly do want to play this card. My problem is I'm gonna order my 3 Tamatoas on my 1 more Scrooge, and I'm gonna play some. Actually interesting. And I also wanted to highlight the top 8 deck, which was a Amber Ruby Mufasa deck. And yeah, big respect to the people prepping Ruby, even though it didn't really get that many cards. And in fact, in this card that's new, there is this one. Card Soldiers, the Royal Troop, while a damage character. A +2 strength. Pretty good card with the Mother Gothel. The bit of a concern I have about Card Soldiers in general, though, they remove the Mother Gothel, it risk. It's a good card nonetheless. I think one of the misses of this set, in my opinion, was not giving Amber Ruby dual ink color cards support for this starter deck. Giving it to Racers, which is absolutely rubbish. Bit of a shame. All right. Also, let's look at the Amethyst Emerald list. I think it's the same tournament, isn't it? 5 players, I think so. Good to see Emerald Amethyst doing well. Gogo's in there, Honeymaron's in there, the Queen, pretty aggressive build. The Merfolk's in there as well. Lyle. Genie's very, very good at the moment, I think. Juice is doing the round still. but pretty slow with rabbits. I would imagine what's going to end up happening is the main way to play Amethyst this set is going to be the story decks, previously called decks. Very, very strong. You can always beat Ruby Sapphire, got Merfolks, but the bigger challenge is how do you also beat Sapphire Steel with a deck that still beats Ruby. This one's a 64-player tournament, England's Inc. Invitational, and Rishi won it with Amber and Steel. Still an ever-present Ruby Sapphire, Ruby Amethyst maybe falling off a bit this set, but Amber Steel is still going strong. Very similar to the Sap Bivens list. Troubadour in there, which enables that Miss Bianca on turn 4. One copy of the Gantu. I don't know about this card, man. A lot of people like it. I'm a bit unconvinced still, but if I was ever going to play it, it would be one copy of it, so fair play. When you play this character, characters can't exert to sing songs into the start of your next. Each player pays 2 ink more to play action items. Obviously, this deck, you're going to be singing most of your actions or items, well, not items. But there's also 3 copies of the Neverland in. But it's really interesting to see these locations that cost 1 kind of creep into some meta decks here and there. It's pretty cool to see. Up next, we've got Blurpool, which is Larry. Blurpool finished second. Now, what this tournament's crazy, man. Bell is in there with 4 Porpsicles. Is there any room for Hiram? There is not. But Porpsicle is just like a really good card. Bell can sing Friends. I mean, no joke, is it? Only 2 Brooms, 4 Churner, only 3 Snake. Obviously, you got the Tipo or Sail on turn 2. Enables Genie on turn 3. Only 3 Sail, though. Sail, man, is better than Tipo in this deck, in my opinion, because you can play Sail on turn 2 and a Magic Broom and a Chernobog. Also, no move for the 1-drop Diablo. Honestly, though, this is pretty inspiring to see Blurpool do so well. You guys would like to see me play some Blurpool with Bell. Obviously, you can shift this Bell as well. Great shift. Let me know in the comments below. Big shout out, Larry. That's a really impressive goal. Third place, look at it. This guy's was how many players in this tournament? 64, and none of the top 3 played Ruby Sapphire or Sapphire Steel. And this one is the Lady in the Tramp deck, which obviously you guys would have seen me quite a bit on my stream already. Got the Daisy, it has got the Lady, and it has got the Tramp, like the cheap cards. It's also got the expensive cards. Pretty risky in its top end because it's playing 2 Chinabogs and 3 Ladies. Like, these cards are very, very powerful, but you can brick pretty heavily with tools. And look at the Megara, Captivating Cynic. He is, when played, may choose and discard a card or banish her. When a player, you've got to banish a card. I'm pretty sure you can't even play her, got no cards to discard. Pegasus is in there, Merryweather's in there. It's kind of similar to my list, honestly. Piglet's in there, aggro. I think you want 4 Go-Go's just to try and top deck out of some stuff in the late game. And Dale is also in there as well. Has some big synergy with Chernobog, and pretty cool deck, fair play. Okay, thought we could have a Sapphire Steel list. Sapphire Steel list, but Ariel, the treasure collector's in there. Fire the Cannons is in there as well. I would imagine that as time goes on, Fire the Cannons become a more popular card in Sapphire Steel. Does in turn give it a weaker matchup into Ruby Sapphire. Dime's in there. There's a Great Stone Dragon. No Oswald. It looks like a pretty solid list with Hades in there as well. Like, I do like Ariel quite a bit as a card. It's going to be good in the mirror because it's basically quest for 5. Said that it's not, is it? If your opponent's got more items, then you're only going to quest. It's going to be hard to deal with because of the war. We've got a Amethyst Steel aggro deck without Maleficent 1-drops making it into the top 8. That's always impressive to see. There's also no Zeus in this one. So my concern about this is it looks to me absolutely steamrolled by Ruby Sapphire. No Zeus to deal with the half shark. No Maleficent to go under the half shark. And have a really, really hard time against Ruby Sapphire. Now, you could say the main line that they might have is get 5 characters on the board, Sting Strength, and that's how they deal with the half shark. But that is easier said than done. But Benja's in there as well. Does give Ruby Sapphire a little bit of problems at time, drawing enough cards. So maybe it's got very small. Certainly going second. We're going second against Ruby Sapphire. Something's going to have to be very wrong. We've got Amber Steel, Penny's friends in this one. Penny is a new dual ink aggro style card. When you play this character, you may remove up to 2 damage from chosen character and they gain resist 1 until the start of your next. Very good in particular, of course, with Mr. Smee. But it's actually very good with Lawrence as well, thinking about it. Also very good with Pluto. So that's a cool deck, and it's a cool deck name because it is Penny and the card she's synergizing with. They're all pretty good. There's also 2 copies of the Gantu in there. You've got the Cindy. A big problem with this style of deck at the moment is that if you're playing Cindy into Bell, they can storm your Cindy, you can't. Definitely, like, would I rather play this or Sapphire? I do like the Penny. That's very, very cool. Last tournament we're looking at was a 76-player event at Big Boy Gaming. It was organized at Big Boy Gaming. It was Israeli Expo. And we're going to look at the top 4. Steel Emerald, putting in some work. With the one called Simba over the Mulan, I'm quite surprised to see so many people going for Simba over Mulan. Personally, I think Mulan better with a 2-1 stat line. This one is pretty heavy on discard with 3 Hypnotize. You also, right, the more discard stuff these decks cut, the worse they become in at discarding. But what's interesting, you've got Doc in there, bounce back with Muses, and to pick between. You go Beast and Bruno, or do you go Doc and no Bruno? This one's Doc and no. Merfolk in there. Beads, it looks solid, no new cards in there. 8 snakes is obviously a bug. It's going to be 4 snake, 4 fox, I'm sure. Lucas on Steel Amethyst. This one's also not got any Doctor Maleficence, but it's got Rabbit and Zeus. Sense, right? I think you have to go like Maleficent or Zeus to be able to have any kind of chance. Sapphire, Zeus. I think it might be a bit too slow to deal with Sapphire Steel. Personally, that's what I've been hearing. Like the Rabbit builds are maybe a bit too slow this meta. I do think Doc is probably the best way for me. Great to see forming with Rabbit builds. Also in the top 4, was it or was it not? It looks like this was the top. Guys at the top. We've got Ruby Sapphire with Half Shark, with Vision, with 3 ice blocks, no foil. This one, sticking strong with the 1-cost ice block, and a big advantage of that is you can play the ice block on 1, ramp on 2, another ice block on 2 with sail. Can't do that with a coil. And finally, in the top 4, another Amethyst. This one is also on rabbits. Got a couple fighter cannons in there as well, for a little bit more of an control. All the 1-drops, which I like to see, obviously Magnificent, but they're also playing Doc and Genie. Very spicy. No Cobra in this one. I do think Cobra's a bit overrated if you don't have the card draw of the Chromicon. At least it was overrated coming into the set. Don't have that many cards. Very, very interesting to see different builds of Amethyst. So if we reflect on the meta overall that we've been looking at in today's video, it's fair to say that Sapphire Steel is on top. Then you got kind of like Ruby Sapphire maybe in 2nd place. I would say 3rd place, you're probably looking at Amethyst Steel. 4th place, maybe Emerald Steel. And then there's a bit of room for experimentation. Absolutely still. Quite a few cards still out there to keep an eye on. Let's take a quick look before we end the video at the best sellers on the channel sponsor Card Market. Got this awesome tool where we can see what are the best sellers of the week. So a little bit of market watch. I'm going to start adding to these videos. Thanks again to Card Market for sponsoring. This is in order of best, worst sellers of the week. You can see Bell, Giant Cobra, Mulan, Mushu still up there. Tramp, Lady in the Tramp deck's popular. Pete is popular for those Emerald and Steel decks. You've got this new Mulan in there, which is kind of interesting to see. So sure about that one. But Ruby Steel is fun, and she's got some potential there. Gantu, Sapphire Core. Kamatoa, I'm sure, would be higher up if it wasn't so expensive. Let's be honest, the fact that a 46 quid card that high up tells you how good this card is for real. Got Bolts up there, Perdita, Hero, Pongo, Isabella Scrooge is at £20 right now. £20 is maybe like $1. $5. Gazer, Baymax. This is my family's up there doing quite well, Bell. This Mickey card is really good, you know. Mickey Jafar is a deck. I'm going to be bringing you guys Mickey Jafar deck build proper soon. I've got some really good ideas. I already played some games. I got some even better ideas after this weekend when opponents were cooking. I see that. A little flick through all these cards. What the best are. Thanks again to Card Market for sponsoring the video. Thank you very much to everyone at these events, hosting the events. Obviously, all the players participating. Thank you very much also to Inquires getting all of that together. Thanks again to Card Market. Thank you for watching. Give the video a like. Cheers.